Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 46 of my Industrial Revolution 3 playthrough. This will be the final episode of the series, where we launch some rockets and do a little bit of space mining. Enjoy. Okay, so far so good. We've got the fuel component of this figured out. What do we want to work on next? Maybe the computers? Construction continues. And actually, having it where your ability to get rid of the stone is the most limiting factor is actually fairly realistic. Because I'm guessing with construction, it's actually not that difficult to dig a big hole, but the hard part is finding somewhere to put all the dirt. So we're going to need a bunch of stuff in here. One thing we don't have yet is gyroscopes, and gyroscopes are mostly a steel item, and we kind of need a lot of them. Like, I'm pretty sure all this stuff is on robot, but for example, making 12 steel rods and putting them on robots is kind of a lot. Like most of Factorio is solving logistics problems, not so much building a factory. So it makes a lot more sense to send 2 gyroscopes by robot rather than 12 rods and 6 gears. However, 2 motors is fine. And because of the numbers, we need 2 machines, but we can't have 3 total assemblers. So we would need to have 2 sets for each, which is too many. So let's come in here, switch this out with a speed module. And that makes it so we only need 1 of them per machine. So speed modules to the rescue, and I guess we have to reset this. One thing about using these unstackers in a setup like this with belts is it limits the throughput limitations of using long-handed inserters, because you just smash all the machines together and then have a long-handed inserter sending the ingot stacks in. Anyway, in goes the steel, and then everything else. There we go. We've got gyroscopes. It actually might make sense to just make these locally right here. And in fact, we can do some direct insertion if we just get this down to 1 machine. So sure, we'll do that. And then have them go in. Revolutionary circuits and gold-plated wire. Let's do the same thing with the wire machines. Or in this case, it's the electroplaters. Anyway, all 3 silos are here. They are desperately trying to mine up that stone. So it's a good thing we're making all this concrete, because we need it to get rid of the stone. And we're basically going through it as fast as we possibly can. We did put a bunch of productivity modules in there, so we actually need a lot less stone than normal, but we can only use it so fast. And making concrete is essentially the best way of using up stone. Oh no, I just realized there's biters out there. How? Did they cross here? That might have been it. Because I'm like, well, the radar's gone. I'm like, uh-oh. I guess we're going out there. We're just about using up those 1,000 robots, so let's set it to 2,000. I don't recall getting a warning that that radar was destroyed, but I guess it was. We did fully upgrade our military technology except for the repeatable stuff, so we will find out how good it is. Where is the tank? I left it out here somewhere. There we go. Could have also been a roaming band of biters somewhere that I just didn't see. We basically have to go through this swamp to get to them. So that is a lot of water. Let's test out the armor by itself. Oh yeah. Those lasers are a little better than they were before, after all of those upgrades. Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, yeah, that makes sense why that was destroyed, because it was too far away from these turrets to really help. Even the big worms are no match. Don't even have to shoot. Alright, so we have to cross here. Because, yeah, there's a little tiny bit of land that the biters could use to cross this. That's probably what happened. I love those lightning strikes. It's very neat. Problem solved, I hope. Oh wow, there's like a tiny tin patch here that was basically canceled out by the water. Okay, the landfill is mostly placed now. So in goes the fluid. In goes the wire. Most of that's there, but we also need to get the circuits in here, which we could do like that. And in it goes. We'll just use these to hold the rocket control units. And let's do like 100 of each. So there we go. Rocket control units are done, which means now we basically just need the satellite and these hull sections. And since we need hull sections for the satellite, let's do these first. Really, not much that goes into the satellite is needed in large quantities, so pretty much all of them can be sent by robot. Have we gotten to a new stage? It looks like it. We have dug the hole. And now, the next thing we need is concrete, bricks, steel beams, chromed rods, and liquid concrete of all things. That is an interesting requirement. This has definitely been set for IR3. Exactly how much? It's probably as much as you possibly can feed it, pretty much. So it needs 1,000 concrete, and I believe that's for 1%. But you do get a ton of stone back, so it should be fine. So we want to make it all the same, which means push those, and basically plop it all in here. Wow, our power consumption is pretty bonkers right now. 500 megawatts. I mean, a lot of that is just the rocket silos, but all of these robots doing stuff is draining the system. There we go. It's definitely going to be held back by this concrete. What if we should just use speed modules? So this doesn't need to run for that long, so we don't really care about the productivities. This is all temporary, and we'll pull it out once the silos are built. So yeah, seems good. We'll place these here and get them ready for that next stage. So now we need to make a bunch of this, but they're just all regular items that we should have on belts or robots. We are going to need a ton of this steel foam, so I guess it's a good thing we designed our setup to make a lot of it. So pretty much every aspect of your factory is going to be pushed for this, which makes sense. That's what you would expect. Let's see if all this works. Well, mostly, except that was reinforced chrome plates, not the steel plates. And there we go. All this is working strong, it's just a little slow. So we might be able to do a temporary thing here, just to get this going as fast as we can. Okay then, we now have the hull sections, which is everything we need for building the rocket. However, we still need to build the satellites for the science. And that requires this mess. We might as well use direct insertion while we can. I guess this is the equivalent of the low density structure, so it's probably going to stack in units of 10. But let's get those going. And I'm guessing actually the majority of this, yes, it does go into the rocket, not the satellite itself. So we can just put one machine there and have it inserting in. And then it's just kind of a question of everything else. Let's do the solar stuff. This is basically all going to be delivered by robot. Basically because the numbers are so small that it essentially doesn't matter. When you look at all these, really the only ones that are even slightly big are the actual solar panels. Everything else is fine. And silicon's a big one. We might just want to send that up on a belt. It's kind of a weird thing to send up here, but we need a lot of them. We are also going to need some diamond powder, but we might just want to send the diamonds up because we're not actually using diamond to powder for anything. Another thing that's cool about the rocket silo construction mod is it updates the icons on the map for what stage they're in. And they are moving along. I am kind of worried that it's taken a little while, but... So in goes the steel. And they're going to go along. We made a solar array. That was an achievement, I guess. So that needs more solar arrays. This one is short on glass. Guess that makes sense. These requests are not very large. And they kind of need to be, at least for this one. So let's add a bunch of stuff in there. And just out of curiosity, that's what those look like. And here's the smaller one. So is it more efficient for size, being as it's a 5x5 compared to 3x3? Well, the 3x3 is 9 spaces, so 75 divided by 9 is 8.33 per square, or I guess that's a square meter in Factorio. That one square is a meter. And then 300 divided by 25 is 12. So if you're building a giant solar field, you should use those bigger ones. But of course, we don't care about that. I guess we could send glass in on a belt here because it is a reasonably large number. And it's probably sending the glass from really far away. I mean, we did belt it and everything. So we should use it. Alright, glass is getting here. That ought to help. It is cool how 4 solar panels go into this, and the array has 4 of them on the icon. And then this one requires 8 of them, and I guess it's kind of hard to tell on this, but you can see that it's got 8 sections on the solar assembly. So the graphics match. And then if you look at this, it's got 4 solar assemblies, and that matches what its requirements are. That's just incredible attention to detail as far as these graphics are concerned. Anyway, it's going, so it's going to make everything that we need. So the next thing is this polished mirror, which we probably can do some direct insertion with. Right there. So in that goes. And then it goes into there. Let's move these down a little bit so we can make these other requests. Doesn't need those. Doesn't need those. So we'll start the crushing, and then put the powder in. And this one is also going to need some computers. Sure, 50's fine. So in those go, making the mirrors, and we have the computers here. So we put those in there, and soon we will have a satellite. And let's limit it to a fairly small number of satellites. We probably only really need to have 1 satellite per silo for any given time, but let's just do 5. It's actually pretty close to the maximum speed of this machine, so to have a higher burst capacity, I kind of want to just put speed modules in there. And 1 more mirror. And there we go. Somewhat slowly making a satellite. There we go. Where's our achievement? No achievement for making a satellite? I guess you have to launch it first. Well, with that, we're basically ready to launch these things. We have everything we need, of course, except for the silos to be ready, because we need that. So let's follow this process. Okay, we got to stage 3 here. And stage 3 is a drilling stage again. Just makes a ton of stuff, but this time, iron and copper, as well as coal. I'm pretty sure all those things have somewhere to go. Well, it's not saying anyone's coming by to pick it up, so maybe not. So I think we do have some dumps somewhere for iron and copper. Looks like it's right here, but it's not going to work unless this is a requester chest, which is why all the stuff is being stuck in the silos. So if we request the copper, it is now going in there. We can do the same thing with iron and coal too. Well, that's a lot of robots. I put in some active provider chests there just to force the items out of the chest to keep things going, because we just cannot consume this stone fast enough, unfortunately. I guess another thing we could potentially research is just swarm safety, so they don't damage things when they crash. We would need to do 8 of these. Well, that's getting pretty expensive, but we could do it. Might as well. Wow, that's very fast. And let's get 1 more. 8,000. That's about as much as we can reasonably do. I wonder what our electrical network is. 1.1 gigawatts. That's a problem. Both of the reactors are going at full blast at 100%. Yep. And we're still going to run out of power. But I think this is quite temporary. Once these stop drilling, which they are about to do, it should really slow down. I hope. That was probably a pretty temporary consumption of power, but nonetheless, considering we almost ran out, it probably means it's time for more reactors. There we go. Now we're down to stage 4, which is lots of pipes, stone bricks, and steel beams, which are already being delivered. Same with concrete, and chromed pistons. I'm not terribly sure why we would need pistons in there. Maybe to open and close the doors, perhaps? Well, let's do another one here. At least it doesn't require liquid concrete anymore. We're definitely running short on resources right now because we're just using it on everything. And that's fine. Well, we need a whole nother set of these so we can pull that out. And we'll grab the whole thing, pop it up here, line up what we can, and go for it. Let's shut the power off until everything is placed. And now we need to make another moat. I wonder if we should just make them go straight across here. To be nice and symmetrical. So we're at stage 5 now for some of these, which requires the red and green wire, chrome plates, more of those bricks, gold wire, and heavy copper cable. I'm not going to need to do this for too long, so I think it's fine to just let this go at whatever speed it's going to go at. We also need to do the red and green wire, which is just made in an assembler. And these are things we actually need in our inventory, so it works out fine. Well, I'm guessing we won't need any of this stuff anymore. We might need concrete. I don't think so, but we'll leave it in place. Don't need to have resources tied up in all these chests. Our new reactor setup is now complete. Just need to set some settings. That this one was 25 and that one was 20. So we'll make this one 15 and this one is 10. So let's try the exciting bit of building the canal. Is this how they built them in real life? That should be good for now. So, flip the power switches on all these. And they should be ready to go. So, we'll need to see if it overloads the accumulators or not when we have this many reactors. But yes, one more thing we need to set is divide by the number of reactor groups to get the correct percent. Now that we have 4, we have the correct numbers. And that uranium is lasting a very long time. It has completely clogged up, but that's because we haven't processed these used cells yet. So once we finally go through this chest, then they'll start flowing. But we might be done with the game before that comes, because nuclear is just incredibly efficient when you only put fuel in when you actually need it. It seems like our copper is getting a little slow. It's basically going at full blast, and only part of it is making it up here to make our coils. So that probably means that copper is the next in line to get the arc furnace treatment. Okay, we need a setup. We kind of have one here. Are the numbers going to be similar? To an extent. But also we might as well just copy the thing. Let's do 22. And could we try to line them up? So if that's 22, we would need another one of them. There we go. So many of them. That's only half of what we would need. So grab another one. Put it in here where it'll fit. And then we need yet another one. Man, this is getting really close over here. I kind of don't want to get any closer than that. So let's do a side-by-side, where we need 44 of them. And we can tuck it in here. And there we go. We'll have to change some of these recipes, but we're ready to rock and roll. And it's already cleared out, so we might as well get rid of it. Feels weird doing this, but it doesn't do us any good anymore. So that much is looking good. We should have enough to see how this works. Only a couple of these are placed, but there's enough of them here to start making stuff. Probably going to further increase our power consumption here, but we have all those reactors now, so we should be good. Oops, looks like I forgot to connect something. Also, it looks like put the wrong one on there. Guess we'll go this way. So how's energy consumption now? It's actually not too bad, but I suppose that's because they all have efficiency modules in there. Also, this needs to be connected. Well, we're at stage 6 now. So we need all 3 types of computers, motors, refined concrete, and radars. So we'll plop that in there, and all these items are available. Well, if we're at stage 6, it means we don't need any of this stuff anymore. Seems like we do need even more copper, so I suppose that means we should try to upgrade this a little bit. It's kind of zigzaggy, because we're reusing existing infrastructure, but I want to minimize how much of this we actually have to change. So this should be a great deal of copper. Awesome. All that research is done. And there we go. Finally have them ready. That took a little while. Specifically, it was just the basic computers. And we required so many green circuits, I had to make a whole second setup just pumping out the green circuits, and even a blue loader just to shoot them all into the machine. And that required so much glass that we needed a whole second line of glass there. And that required so much copper, and because we weren't using the nickel for anything, now we have all of these chests full of nickel because we got rid of our method to only process the crushed ore. Because if you look at the recipe here, you can only use the purified ores for that method, so we might have had to have a backup in the middle here, but the output would have been a lot less, so kind of questionable there. But I think once we fire up research again, this should balance out. But anyway, there we go. Of course, first thing we'll want is a bunch of productivity modules, which means we'll have about 45 megawatts of energy consumption between these three, which isn't too bad. And there's some things we'll want to configure first. Like, we definitely want to auto launch with cargo, and we'll want to have some logic connected to this. First, we'll request our satellites, and we only want one. And then we'll have an inserter here, and we need to grab the signal from the network, and we'll use an arithmetic combinator just to get rid of all the craziness. So we send a signal in there, we want to read the network contents, and we'll say science pack times 1 output science pack. So that'll just say how many space science we have, and it comes around and then shoots in each of these. So basically they will swing if the space science is below whatever number we choose. How about 1,000 for now? And all of those will probably swing pretty readily, and it's possible they might swing prematurely if all the rockets are ready at the same time, but that's okay. And we have to get these in here, so we'll do requester chests asking for maybe 100. And actually we'll probably want to set our request a little higher, because if all of these are asking for 100 each, then we'll have more than 1,000 across all of these. So we'll set it to 2,000. And we'll want a storage chest here somewhere for those space science. And then we'll use a active provider, which will push the science out of the silo the second it arrives, so it will go somewhere. And that much should be good. Another cool thing we can do is use inventory sensor to get a percent complete signal here. And it's giving us right now the modules that are in there, and also that clock. Now the signal is 0 because the completion percentage is 0. But if we grab the crafting process, that will tell us how far along the rocket is. Just to visually check so we don't have to keep clicking on here. Well, after this, I believe we just need to request the necessary items. And each silo really doesn't need that many, so a single requester chest ought to work fine. Not sure exactly where all of these are coming from. They might be coming from relatively far away. So specifically, let's set the fuel to 50 each. Well, there we go. So we'll dump the rocket parts in there, and we are making a rocket. So that clicks over to 1%, and we get a 1 here. And now we wait. One thing we might be able to do to help out is just to have buffer chests here. One for hydrogen, and one for oxygen. Seems like we need another inserter here. We might as well do some buffers for the other items that go in here as well. 100 rocket parts. It may be an achievement, but because we have multiple silos, not much really happens. Kinda want to make a second one of these since it seems like it's going a little slow. Hydrogen seems like it's running a little low, but it could just be because we're filling up that chest, so we'll have to see if this runs out, because if any of these run out, then our production rate isn't high enough. Whoop. Here we go. And here's the better victory screen. Of course, we're not quite done yet, but it's interesting to take a look at the numbers here. 127 hours, 2,000 kilometers walked, 13 hours handcrafting. That seems substantial. Otherwise, at least compared to the Angel Bob's playthrough, these numbers are a lot smaller because the factory's a lot smaller. But there we go. Delivering the space science. And I suppose for those numbers to actually be included, we need to use a buffer chest. Because we don't want to launch any more rockets if we don't actually need the science for anything. See, there we go, 2.9K. Yeah, hydrogen basically ran out. We'll just grab this whole line, go over to the end, and plop it down. I believe the reason why our production rate isn't high enough is because we're using a lot of that for trees. Well, now that that's taken care of, how about we do some research? Not sure how many rockets I'm going to want to launch. Let's turn on the rocket target. So that's how many rockets we've launched. Because the factory is essentially complete, I don't want to spend too much time turning this into a mega base. Okay, let's hit some research and see how much power the factory uses. Well, the only remaining things here is the deep space mining. It's 3,000 research for this. It unlocks the deep space mining probe, which has lots of high-level stuff, including a nuclear reactor, 80 fuel cells, a transmat pad, and 360 hull sections, so it's extremely expensive. And we get a cargo transmat, which is basically how you get the resources from this. And how it works is you send probes out, and they find resources floating in space, and then they get teleported back through the transmat. So that allows you to use some resources without having to mine it. And one other thing you might get is comet ice, which is just a way of making some extra natural gas and water. And you can have up to 1,000 of these mining probes. And it harvests daily and sends them to the transmat. I'm not sure if that's daily in when the sun goes up and down. Probably. And since I have it set to be 30 minutes long, then that means we'll get our deliveries once every 30 minutes. And the other thing we can do is the second tier of working on iron and steel, where you just throw hydrogen in. So we'll hit that. And comparing it to if we were doing it this way, it would require coke. So that's a way of using hydrogen instead of coke. Actually, one thing we can do is potentially stagger these. So but that one is 2,000. This one is 1,500. And this one is 1,000. You can try that so they don't all just immediately launch at the same time. Oh, looks like our iron is running low. We started mining that patch a long time ago. And looks like we're finally at the point now where it's starting to get a little weak. So let's just pick all of this up and do it properly with our better drills. So loud. How much does one of these drills do? About 5. So I guess it depends on how much we really need here. Pretty much the whole blue belt. It's not quite maxed out. It seems like this other side really isn't going that fast. And just those couple of drills will get the job done. This is the steel side and this is the iron side. But that seems to be good now. Well, another rocket launched. And did we need it to? Well, if we are below 2,000, then yes, and we've got another one. And I guess that was the below 2,000 one. That was below 1,500. So this one shouldn't launch. It should just stay at the ready. And seems like it. Almost done here with deep space mining. That'll be interesting to see how that works. There we go. Basically, we're going to have another thing we might want to launch. So we'll make a request now for the deep space mining probe and have it insert her here. And the way this will work is if nothing is in the hand of this, it will swing. I don't think it'll mess anything up to have read hand contents on this wire, because it's not going to cross. Only thing that matters is the green one. Anyway, it'll be hold, as long as it has the item. And this one's enabled condition is this must be equal to 0. And that is currently the case. So far, so good. We're kind of short on iron right now, so production rate hasn't been very good. But let's just make these satellites right here. Why not? They take 60 seconds to craft, just like the other thing, except now they require a bunch of stuff. So we'll just make a request for all of this. And the other thing we need are transmats, so let's make those here. And do we make one at a time? Yeah, probably. Let's put 5 requests in there. Shoot it over, and we probably will want to have a few transmats, so we haven't actually tested that yet. This is going to be a huge use of our uranium, and we really only need to have 1. There we go. Made our first transmat. We just need a lot of reactor fuel here. How much does it actually make? Very little, but it's also not storing very much either. Takes a lot less than 60 seconds with the speed module and better machine. So which silo is going to get it? Probably not going to be lucky and have it be the one on the left. Nope. Well, this one's almost ready to go though. We want to make sure all this works correctly. And how about we do a few more numbers just to tell us what the science pack count is. There's another one. And we're going to have another satellite for it, this time the mining probe. And it doesn't matter which rocket it picks, because either of those will be ready to go. And there we go. It gave priority to the mining probe. Okay, I believe we need to place the cargo transmat down in order to see how it works. So let's do another one, making the cargo transmats. See, this one's gonna go up, so it should launch our mining probe, and yep, it does. I suppose this is also a good opportunity to test these transmats. So let's do 2 of them. And how about we slam one here? We haven't seen it since we started the game. Error 404. It's pretty cool. Does it have to completely charge before you can use it? It's cool how it has just the window of where we are. Yep, there we go. That one's ready to go, but we need to place a second one. So let's just place it all the way down here as a test, where we're making the field effectors. Where are we making them? Factory's getting too big. Alright, here we go. Put that there. It's going to need to charge, and that shows us where we're going. And do we have to stand on it here? Looks like we do. If we're not standing on it, it doesn't count. So we get on it, and it shows us where we can go. Oh, cool. It has the same graphic as the intro. Hey, that's awesome. I approve. Let's place another one somewhere. How about really far away, like down here at Sour Gas? Anyway. Let's go back. It's closer. That's cool. So we'll just get on the sour gas train. Have it start its route. Because we might want to come down here someday. Let's charge up the transmat. And that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if I like it better with it zoomed out compared to zoomed in. I guess it depends on how familiar with the map you are. Oh, that's also really cool. How if you're not sure how it works, there's just a help indicator that gets you to the manifesto. That is neat. Just very well thought out and designed. Let's see, we can name this one Rocket Silos. Let's see, oh, it's naming the one that we're standing on. So we'll call this Sour Gas South. And then let's go back. We'll call this one Circuits. It's a great callback to the beginning of the game, how we teleported in here, but the panel broke, and we only got to use it once. And now, at the end of the game, we can use it as many times as we want. It's also cool how it just tells you what it's called, just with a little indicator that you can see. And that is an alt item there. I imagine we don't need very many of these transmats. So we plop it in there, and it tells you what we're going to get. So that's a total number of probes we could launch, and the total number of transmats, and I guess this will tell us what we'll get every day. I'm not sure when they'll come in, but I guess that just tells us what the total will be. So let's place a couple of these in every location, and that research is done. I suppose we should let things kind of catch up first before we continue, because we are really short on steel. But from what the manifesto says, you can just place this wherever you want the resources to be delivered. Let's say right here, and similar to the airships, you just place a chest, and that's cool how it has the line showing where it's connected, and then give it a filter for whatever item you want it to deliver. In this case, we want copper. Once it charges up, are we going to get something, or does that only happen on certain times of the day? So it's good to go, but we're not getting anything. It's also cool, it tells you just how many stacks total it can hold. Oh, there it goes. I think I even saw a few pieces of copper, and it'll keep going. So from what I understand, it will try to find any transmat that has room. So if it can't find one that has room for that particular resource, you just won't get it. I think it will hold on to it somewhere, but I'm not sure if there's a way to see exactly how much you have. And that can't connect to a circuit network or anything. But, I mean, we're not consuming copper anymore. So that's pretty good. Now we just need to do this for all our resources. Set that one to tin. So let's watch this work. See if we can see the tin falling in. And yeah, it's charged up. But the second I walk away is when it's going to send something. So that one is our iron. And this is definitely a very large haul of 20 stacks. I kind of want to throw the status of the transmats on this green wire just so we can see if anything has been delivered. I guess you can launch enough of these to where you essentially don't have to mine anything at all. And that is a pretty good end game, I suppose. No more mining, because you've launched enough rockets. There we go. So that gives us our status of those different ores. And there's one more thing that we could process, and it's that ice. We kind of are constantly short on natural gas, so having more would be nice. And it's processed in a chemical plant. Kind of want to take some more transmats with us. Oh wow, killed a big biter somewhere. So let's teleport down here, go to where we're processing gases on the end, and put a transmat here so we don't have to walk next time. And we'll call this one gas processing. This kind of makes the most sense of where we would want to do this. So processing the ice will make it in gas form. And I'm not terribly sure how many chemical plants we're going to need. So how about we slam like 10 of these in here. And we are going to create a little bit of free water doing this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Things are kind of smashed in here. Hopefully this doesn't cause any clogs of any kind, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, one more transmat, and looks like we're getting more and more resources. I'm not sure if it's completely randomized or not. It might be, but also it might just be set on the numbers, because it kind of makes sense that iron would be the most and tin is kind of the least, so I'm not sure. Tell it that we want ice, and how much is this in total? About 1 belt, so that's a good number to have. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you do kind of see them fall down there. And let's see how this ice processing works. It's a pretty cool graphic for this, but nice white smoke there. But it's making lots of useful natural gas. and all of these running together actually makes a pretty substantial amount of it. And I am noting that actually this is producing a substantial amount of ore. Probably adds up quickly. It's also possible that me changing the speed of the day is either nerfing or buffing this somehow. But we are making free fuel. So I approve. Probably time to do some repeatable research and see how everything works. For now, how about I do the throwaway research of robot follower count. Basically, I don't feel the need to do like infinite research on mining productivity. It just kind of makes the miners super OP. But not that it really matters because we're near the end. So 64,000, that's a big research. So let's do a couple of these and just see how it works. I am curious if we'll keep up with the transmats here. Seems like we pretty much are. That's so cool. And they do make you wait through the graphic, which does slow it down a bit, so it's not super OP where you just put them everywhere. Like you'd actually want to place them somewhere where there was a sufficient distance to actually travel. But this is getting close to finally using up our uranium, so when it gets below 100, this process is going to start clearing out. There it goes. And it's going to slowly start clearing out, which is going to allow us to process all of these empty fuel cells we've just been waiting on. Pretty cool. And this is future Marsh jumping in here, that this is the end of the recordings that I had for IR3 that I recorded in 2024. It seems like a sudden end, and I do have another save file that's about 3 hours older than this, but there's no recording showing any gameplay. So I vaguely recall that I might have forgotten to hit record. And I spent some time trying to get the factory to work on modern Factorio, and it kind of did. And I didn't really see any significant differences worth re-recording. And it's a little annoying that that happened, because I do specifically remember talking about my opinions of IR3 at the end of the recording. But overall, I don't think it's really worth spending time to get this factory up and running in 2026 here on Factorio 2.0, because at most it would be like another episode or so. There isn't much left to show. I think I did a pretty good job showing most of the things that are a part of IR3. And like with my Angel Bob's factory, and any factory really, it's important to know when the factory is complete and when it's time to move on. And I think that time has come for this factory, even though that time was in 2024. It is a little weird commenting about something that is from the past, but here we are. I just didn't want to have the series just kind of end right there with the last recording. That overall, I think IR3 is a really cool mod pack, and I think it did Vanilla Factorio better than Vanilla Factorio did it. And that's a pretty high praise, I think. It's a shame not too many people ever learned about this mod, almost certainly because of the limits that the creator of the mod put on people putting them on YouTube or putting them on Twitch or that sort of thing. So it's very much a word of mouth type of mod. And I think that's all I have to say about IR3 in this factory. That from here, we're going to do something that I've really wanted to do for basically years now, and that's a Pionodons playthrough. My intent is that it's not going to be as long of a series as the Angel Bob's was, because I really don't want to do another 400 episodes. It was definitely an achievement with Angel Bob's, but you can kind of understand that I might not want to go through it a second time, especially considering that Pi is going to be a longer playthrough than that. That Pi is generally more than 1,000 hours, so that is a lot of content to go through. So my hope is that I can edit it in a way that still shows it off and is still entertaining without completely eviscerating the style of the videos, because I think I do have a specific style with videos here that it's kind of half let's play and half walkthrough. So if I edit it too aggressively, I think it would lose that effect. So I'm going to try to stick to that, and in fact, it'll probably be a fairly similar style to the end of IR3 that you've seen here. That over the course of this episode, it's actually covered many hours of gameplay, because I didn't feel like the smaller things were worth showing, because the factory was complete and I've basically already shown those kinds of things before. But other than that, there's not much to say. Thanks for coming along this journey with IR3, and I hope you'll stick with me for the journey through Pi as well. So thanks for watching, and I will see you later.